husband always thought of the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario plagued him. And I would say to him all the time, I would say, because it's 23 years of the worst case scenario. I'm like, the worst case scenario hasn't happened. I'm like, why do you keep thinking that it's going to happen? Like, all of these things that you say are going to happen, like they haven't happened. And I mean, even if, look, the worst case scenario for myself and the kids happened. It did happen.
Right.
And so I can't be pessimistic. I can't stay in bed. I can't think that this is the end of the world. I can't think that there's not a light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly, Trish.
We are going to be successful and we're going to achieve some goals and the kids are going to reach their dreams and Dad will still be here. Dad will be with us every step of the way.
Right. Exactly.
Play Dad's music all the time. I'm going to talk about Dad all the time. We're going to laugh about Dad all the time.
Exactly. You don't, and I think it's interesting with other people too, that they're afraid to say anything about your husband or, whatever. And I think that's a really good thing to talk about, oh my God, I remember when your dad did this and it was so funny or it was so cool or whatever, and it's interesting because when my three little ones were still little when John died, I remember my friend she became my friend, the alcoholic counselor, I call her. She said, why don't you ask each of the kids to visit their father's grave, see what they want to say. And it's really interesting.
My youngest, who's 12, it's emotionally challenging for her to express how she feels because she's not emotionally mature enough to express how she feels about it. But we talk about it. And I've asked each of them, my son is the most quiet. And my son, who's 14, he's the most reluctant to talk about it. But I have asked them if they were angry at Dad. And they've all said no. We're all in a deep recognition of the fact that he loved us and didn't leave us. And we're all in deep recognition that he was dealing with something that was beyond his control. And he didn't choose.
Right.
He wasn't saying, oh, forget my family, I'm going to have a cocktail.
Right.
So we all understand that. I've made it a point not to convince them of that because I would never convince them of anything. But I've made it a point just to say that so they do understand that it wasn't, I don't believe it was a choice. So in hopes that they don't contain anger or resentment in their hearts towards him. I know.
You just don't know. I remember when Lyle came shortly after John died because he wanted to talk to the kids. And he was saying just what you're saying, your dad was a good man. This is nothing that he chose. He couldn't, whatever. I mean, he just really, especially the three little ones, And so they all heard that.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting when you brought up John earlier and the question of what the black hole was inside of him.
Mhm.
And I think when you are something you're exposed to at some point in your life that creates a wound inside of you that never gets resolved, that never gets tended to, that never gets healed. It just becomes this a nerve point that gets accessed through all these different difficult times that you experience in your life and grows a little bit bigger when you don't acknowledge it, you don't heal it. What I've been working with Kevin is healing those old wounds.
Mhm.
That's why, I mean, Guy and I, my mother and I have a nice relationship now, but when we were growing up, I'm reluctant to just say what it was, but let's just say it created a very large wound for me, and it made me very insecure and created a lot of self-doubt, and I never really believed in myself. I never thought I was, I never thought, I would always compare myself and think in the back of my mind, I'm not that educated, I'm not that,
And that's, yeah.
those kinds of things. And and it made me submissive, and it
Mm.
made me not in command of my own self, in charge of my own self. So when I met someone like my husband, who was a very dominating force in the marriage, and very opinionated, I always went along with the status quo, even if
Mm.
I was sacrificing my own wants and needs.
Mm.
But after a while, what happens? It catches up to you.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So with your son, I started developing kind of my own voice. And, you know, with Guy, it was always an argument because I would get upset. I would get offended. I would get hurt. And when you react in those places, what do? You know, you throw the axe back.
Right.
It's
Boom,
not
boom, boom,
very
boom, boom, boom.
right. It's not very productive. It's two people, you know, just being as mean as they possibly can to each other. It's so stupid. So I remember all of a sudden feeling this kind of centering that I had never felt before in talking to my husband. And for example, you know, I would go out to my women's groups and it was on Zoom. So I would just go into another room and he would say, "Oh, you're going to your stupid women's group where all they do is gossip and talk and waste time and it's a little sewing."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was dinner time too. So you can't, you know, you have to be making dinner for the kids at 6 o'clock. It's dinner time. What's wrong with
Right.
you? But the women's group was at 6 o'clock. So all of a sudden I started to feel this, oh, okay, it's not my problem. It's your problem. You have the problem with my women's group. So I would walk out the door saying, this makes me happy. And it's something that I really want to do. Instead of, why are you saying this? You're so mean. You're such a bad person.
Right.
I enjoy this. Take care of yourself. I'll be back in an hour and I'll make dinner.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, but interestingly, he had a wound. And I think I know what that wound was. inside of him. And I think it was rooted in his parents' divorce when he was very young, where that was a traumatic event in his life that always bothered him. And having changed homes and his environment changing
Mm,
and the perfect kind of family life
mhm.
disappearing for him, I think that always created this strive for perfection and the perfect family and
Oh, yeah.
best of everything and, this validation and everything being perfect to make
Mhm.
when, I guess I'll ask you this question. What, um, what makes you whole?
What makes me whole?
What makes you feel like a whole person? Is it a confusing question? Like,
No, because um, it isn't. I think what makes me whole is I was so loved,
mhm,
and I was um, even my dad and mom. You know, when I got good grades in school, good for you. In other words, uh, whatever I did was acknowledged.
mhm,
You know, uh, and my we were a huggy face kissy family. You know, and there was just a lot of demonstrative, but also real love.
yeah,
And when I think of, and I think that makes me whole. I
yeah,
really think that is the nut that makes me whole. And when you ask that question, and I think of John, I think I know what his black hole was.
mm,
And because his father was unable to show love at all.
mm,
John was very sensitive. He
yeah,
was a very sweet man. And I remember he was made a vice president at Prudential.
mhm,
And we were moving back to New Jersey. And he was so pleased to tell his dad and mom.
yeah.
And he made a dinner. He reserved a table at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel or something for a really lovely lunch or whatever it was. And he said, I have something to tell you. And he said, I am going to New Jersey, and they made me a VP at Prudential and whatever. And his mom said, oh, Sean, how wonderful. Nothing from his dad.
Wow.
It gives me chills now. Nothing from his dad.
Yeah, same for me.
And, he always, when I think back of what he told me, different things like when he was growing up, he remembers his mom being a loving person, but his dad also came from where he came from. He was given away as a child.
His father was.
Yes.
Oh,
His father was widowed, and he felt that he couldn't manage, and he gave his son to the Courtneys.
how could John learn? What we're talking about is emotional health.
Exactly.
And it's not something that was ever discussed until really recently in the past 20 years or so.
That's true.
Has it become something so normal and acceptable to talk about?
Right.
No one, especially for a man, you don't talk about
Yeah.
health. Like, are you kidding me? That's considered feminine, or it's not masculine to have emotions or feelings or weakness. God forbid.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how could John learn about emotional health from someone that was given away, that had probably no,
Exactly.
no self-worth?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you can see the picture. You can see the picture. And I remember when Dad Courtney was dying, and we went every night down to Torrance from Glendale and visited him. And I remember the, I don't know if it was the last time we were there or not, but we were leaving, and Mom Courtney said, John, don't you want to kiss your father goodbye? And he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And, and when I think of what his black hole was, I really think it goes way back to his childhood.
It does. Look at your roots. Your roots are rooted in love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In love and in, as I say, appreciation, if you will, in discipline. I mean, my mother was a disciplinarian, but a fair disciplinarian, except one time she wasn't.
Listen, can't be.
I still remember that, Mom. But okay, one of the things that, again, I'm a child, and I don't know if I told you this before, but my grandmother came to live with us, and I call her my mother's wife at the time because she took care of the house. Mom went to work every morning. And anyway, this one night, a couple was over. She is like 9 months pregnant, and my mother is going to give them a crib that is upstairs in our attic. And I'm 10 years old, 11 years old. And Mimi was with us. And she said, Lorraine, go up and, show George where the crib is. And there was something inside me that wasn't, I just felt my intuition at that point was, I don't want to. And I kind of said, oh, no. And my mother said, you go and show him where the crib is. I went upstairs and he tried to molest me. And he grabbed me and I fought him off. And he said, don't you tell your mother or I will kill her. And I remember running down the stairs and I had no boobs. And he's trying to feel me up. Got downstairs and I said, I couldn't find the crib. They got the crib. And my mother helped. She drove her car and they drove their car so she could help them anyway. So Mimi, my grandmother, was sitting on the sofa. And I said, Mimi, I want to tell you something, but you can't tell Mommy. Don't tell Mommy. And I told her what happened. And my grandmother was, I can still not believe that she didn't go, oh my God. She just sat very calmly, listened to me. Honey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And I felt good because I had told Mimi. And Mimi was supportive of me. Well, she obviously told my mother.
Mhm.
And we're all eating the next day at our kitchen table. My sister Suzanne, Dolores, and I, my mother and my grandmother. And the phone rings. And it's this bastard. And mommy answers the phone, and all I hear her say is, "You son of a bitch. If I ever see you, I don't care if it's on the corner of Sunset and Vine, if it's anywhere." She said, "You know I have a gun, and I know how to shoot it, and I will kill you. And no judge in this country will ever convict me. So don't let me ever see you anywhere." Well, I knew who she was talking to, but that's the kind of support I had.
Mhm.
That's the kind of I mean, I think that just goes to your core when you and Meme's looking down, and my sisters, well, they were little. Suzanne was little, but they're going, because mom is being. And then that night, my mother and I did the dishes. We didn't have a dishwasher or anything.
Hmm.
And she usually didn't do it. I did it with Dolores.
Mhm.
But she says, "I want to talk to you." She says, "Lorraine," she said, "if anybody tries to do anything to you that you don't want done to you,"
Mhm.
she said, "you kick them between the legs and run like hell."
It's interesting. What year do you think that was?
What age?
What year?
Oh,
So
what year?
10 years old, 40s?
Oh, it was, yeah, it was 1942, 43. I was
No one,
11 years old.
no one spoke about child molestation
No.
or pedophilia or anything like that. And growing up with kids, growing up with children in today's day and age, stories like that, you read about them all the time. Priests, college football coaches, high school football coaches, the gymnastics coaches, the doctors.
This was a policeman, by the way.
I don't know how many times I've said to my kids, since they could hear, literally since they could hear, because once you send them off to school, you're not there.
Right.
Never know. You never know.
Right.
And I didn't tell them this to be paranoid about people at all. But I would say to them, if something feels wrong, it's wrong. And no one is ever allowed to touch you anywhere on your body. That's it.
Yeah.
Just, you have to arm your kids
You have to do it.
with a way to protect themselves, even though they're 40 pounds, 3 foot nothing, you know.
Exactly.
All they have is a backpack.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
But that's all you can do,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
I mean, that situation in your life, there's so many things about it. There's the fact that you fought back, the fact that you ran away,
Mm-hmm.
shut down. You kind of had you had a self-worth and an understanding 10 and 11 years old. Is that how old you said?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I did. Yeah.
To understand, to stop it in its track, run downstairs. He said he was going to kill your mother.
Yes.
You told your grandmother. She told your mother. They protected you. And that added to the person that you are today.
I absolutely agree with you. And one of the professors, when I was doing my alcohol drug counseling thing, we had to write some papers or whatever. And one of the things that I wrote about was that incident. I don't know what the class was about now, but the professor, he didn't say my name or anything. He said, here's an example of what support is to a child.
Mhm.
And he read my thing about the molestation, and he said, this is a perfect example of how you listen, anyway. But it did make a difference in my life. It did make a difference.
There's a theme. There's a theme that I see. There's a thread. There's a thread in your life. And it's the support that you had with your mother and your grandmother and the strong women in your life and your father growing up. When your world fell apart with John, the support that you had with friends and family and community rallying around you,
Mm-hmm.
holding you up when truly you couldn't stand up on your own. It was way too difficult, way too emotionally heavy, and you had way too many responsibilities for one person to handle on their own. Through your battles with cancer, your children constantly showing up in your life to
Mm-hmm.
your husband Lyle as well, to support you and be there for you. And what does it all come down to? Faith, family, community, love, support, being a good person. And when you're an honest, decent human being, honest, decent people will rally around you when the tides turn, because they do for all.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are,
Yeah.
the tides turn.
Yeah.
And someone like you that has experienced the highs, experienced the lows, enjoyed the joy. What advice, and it's not to a specific person, it's anyone. It could be, the president of China or someone in a small remote village in the middle of nowhere. What is your advice to anyone about how to live how to live a good life? What's your advice to those people?
Wow, you really put these questions out.
Sorry. Well, I feel like the best answers could come from you. So,
I mean, as you're asking me that and you're saying in a small village or the president of this or whatever, one of the things I would say, it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. Just hang in there. I'm thinking of, I don't know. I mean, it's a simple thing, but it really does. I think it all works out if you just hang in there and you just don't let it. Well, how can you not let it get to you? I don't know. Maybe that's not good. I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, it really depends, I think, on to whom I would be talking,
right.
because I might say to somebody, I know you're going through a hard time. I might say, even let me help you. And it'll all work out. Or maybe there's somebody that's, I don't know, but I do think that if you have, and I am just, again, this is one of my things, is to just the serenity prayer. You know what that is.
I do.
That's it.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Exactly. There you have it.
I think
There you have it.
what I took from what you said was really, really beautiful, and that is hope and optimism is a flame and a light that keeps the heart alive and full of love, despite whatever circumstances come our way. And that is the only way that you can begin and end this small little journey that we all individually
Mhm.
have on this planet and leave peacefully, is maintaining that little hope and optimism within your heart.
And to bring it down to a real uh, a less profound, shall I say, because you're very profound.
Oh, thank you.
But yesterday, or the day before yesterday, it doesn't matter. I was on my way to the doctor's. Got in the car and my battery died. And I had my card and I called the office and I said, I can't make the appointment. I said, because I'm waiting for AAA to charge my battery and I'll make the appointment as soon as I can, which was yesterday morning. But I was so proud of myself because I guess it was the serenity prayer. What could I do about it? Couldn't change it. I mean, and I was so calm and I wasn't upset. And I just thought, gosh, yeah, what good would it have done me? Oh my God, this battery dead. What good would that have done me?
It would have done you a disservice.
And I thought about that, and I remembered talking to myself kind of when the car was fixed. He told me to drive it, for a half an hour or something. And I'm driving and I'm talking to myself. I said, good for you. You didn't get upset or anything.
Oh my gosh. And I think that's it. Keep calm and carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we all get flustered and frustrated for sure, but it was just kind of um, a, a light bulb going off my head. And I thought, oh,
Right.
good for you, because, it is what it is. It is what it is.
Accepting what your circumstances are is half the battle.
Yeah. And then doing something about it,
Correct.
uh, and, accepting, but also doing something about it.
Nothing's going to happen. Don't take action.
Yeah.
No
And
one.
so I called AAA.
There you go. There you go. On that note, Lorraine, it was such an honor.
Oh,
It really was. I would love to do this again. And just, a few months down the road, check in, see how you are, see where you've been, see what you're doing. I think you're a really beautiful human being.
thank you.
With a huge heart. I think you've added to the world. I think you've added to the people that you've met in your life. I've only known you a short time, but in my in my situation so similar to yours, you've kind of provided a hope and resilience. And I really look up to you. I really admire you.
Mm.
And, you will always be that kind of person, woman on the horizon that I am walking towards. So
You're in my heart, Trish. You're in my heart, and you're part of my life now, you know.
I'm so happy. I was thinking, I probably don't have to, if we're friends now, I could probably, Kevin and I probably don't need to meet anymore. I could just go right to the source. Oh my
Well,
goodness.
thank you
Just
so
kidding.
much for your kind
I'm
words.
just,
I
I'm
mean,
just kidding.
really, but
It was
uh,
absolutely amazing. I will and continue to learn so much from you. And I hope everybody watching this will learn from your resilience, your hard work, your kind heart, your honest nature, your true being. And just so everybody knows, every single day you make it a point to dance for 5 minutes.
at least 5 minutes.
At least 5 minutes, express your joy, express your gratitude.
Yeah,
Put your favorite song on. You are alive.
you're damn right.